G'day everyone, it's Annette here and welcome to my channel Alchemy Art. This week I was going to show you a resin beach scene on a 40cm wood round, but I haven't quite finished. I got stuck at the second wave, and I will show you how I fixed what I perceived as a problem next week and the end result. But for now I want to show you how I made this gorgeous little coaster. I was just mucking around, pouring some different combinations of colours and using some resin, and this is what I ended up with. The resin I'm using is Platinum Ultra Clear Pro, and I'll be using Liquitex acrylic inks, and I'll list all the inks down below and any other products I've used in the description box. I've mixed up approximately 250 mils of resin in total, and I've decanted it into four cups. The first one here has 120 mils of the mixed resin, and I think I'm adding 15 drops of the Cast and Craft opaque white resin colour, and I want it to be translucent when I mix it, just like that, so I can still see the stir stick through it. Then I poured out 30 mils from that mixed white into a separate little cup, and add another 3 drops of the Cast and Craft to make this more opaque white. And I'll use this, as you'll see in a second, with some pipettes to draw it up. I've just cut off that tip, push it in, squeeze it, and let the white go up the stem there, and I'll pipe that on to the surface of my colours when I do it. I'm just getting this ready. In 3 other cups I've got 40 mils each of mixed resin. This first one I've added 8 drops of the Liquitex Deep Violet, but for some reason it's come out looking very, very pink, and later on you'll see I'll add some dioxazine purple to that to make it a bit darker. All 3 of these colours that I'm mixing, I want them to be transparent so you can see through them. This is the quinacridone magenta. You can see what I mean, that the deep violet and the pink look very, or the magenta look very similar. And in the third one I used 4 drops of the yellow and 4 drops of the pyrrole red, or 1 drop of the pyrrole red I think it was, to make an orange transparent colour. I'm aiming for orange, pink and purple. Once I've mixed up this orange, that's when I decide to use some Atelier dioxazine purple acrylic ink, and I added just 2 drops of that to make that first deep violet colour more of a purple colour and give it more of a contrast to the magenta. In a clean separate cup, I pour each of these 3 colours down the side in layers, and I use about 1/3 of each time I pour them down, using the purple colour first, the magenta, and then my custom orange, one after the other. All 3 are in there. I don't give it a stir or anything. I'm just going to then tip it around in a circle into my coaster. The coaster I'm using is 14 centimeters approximately wide, and it's a live crystal edge silicone mold. And I start on the outside and I just go round and round to the middle, ensuring that the whole surface is covered. I want to pop the surface bubbles with a small butane, and silicone molds can be damaged by heat. So if you use a flame with your silicone molds, just try and move quickly and keep away from the edges. Next step, I'll be piping on my white from that small cup that I made more opaque. And I've never used like pipettes or a piping bag before with resin, and this resin, it's very viscous or very runny, and I found this a bit of a challenge to get my sort of rhythm and flow, but I'm just aiming for a circle of separate dots all the way around I've seen in other people's videos that they can get interesting effects. Some people call it a resin farrier flower with the effects that they can get using white and inks with a very viscous resin. And I've not paid for any courses. I've just watched other people's videos, and ratios weren't given, so I'm just mucking around to see what I can come up with, and I'm certain it's not a fairy flower at the end, but I did like the end result. So there you go. As with most resins, when you pour them into a mould with an edge, it sort of hits the edge and then pulls back towards the centre. So as you can see, as I'm adding the white dots going around and around in circles, that it's starting to pull in towards the middle, like a starburst sort of effect, really. And I think what I've seen on other people's videos with their resin fairy flowers, they call them, it depends on the type of resin you use, the ratios of how much resin you use, how opaque your whites are, etc., etc. So I have no idea what it's really meant to be to get the fairy flower effect. Mine's ended up more of a mosaic, as you could see from the start, but I do like it, as I said. It is interesting, and I'll play around with this more. Each time I go around in a circle with my dots, I try and place the dots in between, the space in between the dots on the circle before it. And I do know from other people's videos to leave a space in the middle, because as the white pulls towards the middle, if you don't leave a space, you end up with a white blob. Popping some more bubbles with my small butane. And next comes the scary part, the remainder of that first lot of translucent white that I mixed. That I took the 30 mils out to make the darker, more opaque white. It eventually gets poured into the centre, which is really odd, but it gives an interesting effect. Before I get to that though, I'm adding some more dots around the outside and here and there in spaces that I can see where I wasn't very good with my piping. I've seen other people do this, and they do this with so much ease. Yeah, it's I can't do it. As I said, it's just practice, I think. I did try with a piping bag, and I was even worse with that, so I think I'll stick with pipettes. Filling in a few more dots here and there, and you can see my first lot of dots have pulled right in towards the middle. Kind of looks like a sea urchin, I reckon, but yeah, it's very interesting. Resin is fascinating. Its reactions with different, products such as inks, alcohol inks, pigments, different whites. Also, excuse my big noggin in there every now and again. In case people were wondering, I always use a half face mask when I do resin work, and it has organic vapor filters on it. And I do encourage everybody to do their research and keep yourself safe and look after yourself. I also use a air purifier, and I adjust my temperatures according to the season. I live in a very hot, wet, tropical area where there's often quite a lot of moisture in the air. Okay, I've nearly finished filling in my dots here and there. I'm sure I'll get better at this if I practice a bit more, and I would like to try this again. Couple more. One more shot with the small butane again, popping the surface bubbles and trying not to linger too long over the edges of my silicone mould, as you can sort of overheat it and the resin can stick to your silicone then. Here we go with the remainder of my white, straight into the center and dump it in. Straight away you can see it's pushed, the white's pushed the first lot of colours with out to the edge and then over the top of the white itself. I did decide to put this onto time-lapse, which I'm about to do now. I let it run for about an hour and then I put just a bit of glitter mixed with leftover resin into the centre, but I really should have done that before I put the time-lapse on, I think, because I could feel there was a bit of resistance there, and at the end the glitter doesn't go all the way through. The colour of glitter I'm using here is Larisi holographic copper and gold chunky glitter mixed together. And you can see it's quite thick, the resin, by the time I put this in, so that's something else I will change too. The other thing that affects it is how opaque your white is. 24 hours later, and I'm taking it out to see how I went. I can already see from this side that the glitter hasn't sunk all the way through to the bottom, and that's because I left it for that hour. Here we go. That's my edge. Wow. It is pretty, but not the effect I was after. It kind of looks more like a mosaic, or, yeah, it's interesting. As I said, resin does fascinating stuff. So I'll just show you a couple of little close-ups, and next week I will definitely show you my nighttime beach scene with the black sand. I'll definitely muck around again with resin and this sort of effect and see how I go, perhaps using either a more opaque or transparent or translucent colours, I'm not sure, and perhaps also changing my resin. The Ultra Clear Pro is a 2:1 ratio resin, and that's why it's so runny. So I think I'll try it next with a 1:1 ratio one, which is a medium thickness. Thank you everybody for watching, and thank you again to my subscribers, new and old, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.